So, hey everyone, once again, my name is Valerie from the Top Voices, and welcome back to our Talking Community Talks series. And today, our guest is Nimisha Sharath, product manager at Uber. And today, we'll be talking about launching an AI product. So, let me pass the mic to Nimisha
Hey
and
folks,
get started.
awesome. How do I switch to the next screen? Sorry, hey folks. I'm trying to figure out how to do this here. Uh, Maybe someone should hop back on and tell me how to actually switch to the next screen.
Oh, yeah, you can just switch with your keyboard. Does it work? Or I
Uh,
can do that for you. That's okay.
okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
I think it's working for me. I'll just ask you to go to the next slide when I'm ready. Okay, hey folks. Sorry for the delay, I guess. My name is Nimisha. I'm a product manager at Uber. I'm based out of Seattle in the US. I've previously worked at Microsoft and Instacart. And today, I'm so excited to talk to you about launching an AI product. So I've done this a whole lot of times, and I think by now I've created a blueprint. So yeah, happy to share my learnings. If we could go to the next slide, Valerie. Cool. So, on the agenda for today, let's get clear about what AI products actually are. A lot of buzz around this. Just the whole world is talking about AI these days. Then we're going to get into a product life cycle where I've divided it into 5 phases. We'll go through each phase. I have examples for you in each phase so that you understand the concepts extremely clearly. Cool. Next slide, please. Awesome. Just a very quick intro about me. As I mentioned, I live in Seattle. I'm actually from India. I did my schooling and undergraduate there, and then I came to the masters for came to the US for my masters. Uh, I've been a data scientist for several years, so that kind of helps me be a really good AI product manager, I guess. Cool. Next slide, please. All right. So, getting into the meat of the discussion today, what is an AI product? Um, so, you have AI products all around you, they're ubiquitous. Even simple products such as buttons that masquerade as some of the most basic UI tools are actually powered by ML and AI in today's world. So, what exactly is an AI product? An AI product is something that is powered by either one or many machine learning models. So these products essentially take some sort of an input from the user and provide an output based on intelligence baked into them. Very simple example, let's say you're on the market for a new chair, you want to redecorate your house. You go to Amazon.com or Wayfair or some other sort of online shopping marketplace. You're logged in, you want to find a wooden chair such as the one on the screen, and you upload some sort of an image of what you like, and there are multiple product suggestions that show up, which you can search and browse and buy from. So how is this an AI product? It's an AI product because you're providing an input which is just context about you, right? All of your previous browsing history, the image you uploaded, your age, your preferences, all of those are inputs into this recommendation model, which ultimately spits out other products, which are shopping recommendations for you, which is the output. So, yeah, these kind of ML driven solutions are all around us. It could be in your Spotify, it could be when you book an Uber, you know, everywhere. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's go to phase one of launching an AI product. First of all, this phase is probably there when you launch any product, irrespective of whether it's AI or not. And that phase one is identifying what the user need is. You're always building something to solve a problem. So, identifying what problem you want to solve is your first step. Next slide, please. Cool. I'd like to explain this with an example, much like how I'm going to be doing for the rest of the presentation. So, this example comes from the time when I was working at Microsoft on this search engine, if you've heard of it, called Bing.com. So, back in the day, I was actually planning my wedding. So, I decided if I want to plan my wedding, how exactly would I use Bing.com to do it? And the reason why I did this is because when you start using the product that you are making better or building to actually serve your own needs, you start thinking like a user and you find a lot of problems with it. So I like to use this framework called when in a situation I want to do something so that I can have a specific outcome. So, kind of building out that scenario, I started thinking about all the things that I need to buy for my wedding. It could be a dress, it could be decor, it could be food. So many things need to go into planning an event such as a wedding. Next slide, please. So, based on that, I was able to realize that there were a lot of problems that held Bing.com back from being the most optimal search engine for shopping, for instance. Right? I had a lot of ideas. I realized that the coverage of products for an Indian wedding, for example, is very low. I couldn't really buy saris on Bing.com in the US. The user funnel was very long. I would have loved to shop based on videos or shorts. Um, so more of multimedia. So I got a lot of ideas, and I think this approach really is one of the best ways for a product manager to figure out how to expand the scope of their product as well. So yeah, when you're identifying user needs or you want to define a problem to solve, and you have an OKR in mind, actually go in and use the product. Aside from that, of course, you can also start digging into the data. Um, I also started, using a lot of SQL queries and things like that to figure out why are more people not actually shopping for weddings on Bing.com, for instance. Another way to also solve for user problems is to do user interviews. I constantly ask my friends about why they didn't use Bing, for instance, to buy a phone or to do product comparisons. So yeah, very as a product manager, the more shameless you are in trying to go figure out what's wrong with your product, the better it is for you because then you build a whole backlog of ideas. Next slide, please. Awesome. So you've identified a whole lot of problems, but now you have to prioritize from this list of like 20 different things to solve, right? So I usually try to create a rubric based off of what's the business priority. So what does Bing actually need in this quarter or in this half? Secondly, what is the value proposition we're offering to users? Thirdly, what is our opportunity in doing this? And lastly, what is our competition doing? So, combination of all of this, next slide, please. Combination of all of this actually gives you a great opportunity to identify what to solve first. And I want to call out officially that not all problems actually need to be solved by AI. So a lot of the times people shove machine learning as a way to fix problems because it looks flashy and it gets a really good reaction from users. But sometimes it's a waste of resources. But specifically, what we're talking about today are the problems that really need some sort of machine intelligence to power them. Next slide, please. All right. So we've reached phase two. We've defined our user problems. We have figured out which ones we want to prioritize based on a rubric. Finally, we are going to get into a validation and planning phase. Now, I also like to call this phase product market fit. Next slide. So, when you enter this phase, you know the problem that you're solving, and you also have a vague idea of the solution you want to build, right? For instance, if we think about the problems that I was encountering on Bing, I realized, okay, maybe I need to offer a way for users to find products through images or videos better, because that was something that was missing. So you always have some vague idea of what you want to put out there. Maybe it's not well baked, but you have a starting point. Now, at this point, right, you also know that this is not a static feature. This feature or solution needs some sort of user input, and you need to apply some intelligence onto it to actually give outputs. So at this stage, I like to involve my cross-functional stakeholders for a quick jam session, right? So I also call this phase concept teasing. So what I talk about is I clearly explain the problem to these folks. I give them some options of solutions I'm thinking about. Now, some people might feel like it's too early for stakeholder buy-in at this stage, but I actually think of it to be the opposite. Next slide, please. So, actually, what this really helps with is in refining your problem statement. It also very importantly helps you figure out your ML lifecycle needs. So, for example, let's say I am thinking of an offering which is um, shopping recommendations based on a YouTube video you're watching. Okay, let's say that's the solution I'm thinking of. Now, what if you realize that you actually don't have data scientists to help you build this feature? Or what if you realize that you don't have enough compute power and you actually need to apply for GPUs? What if you realize that you cannot use machine learning models which are open source? You have to actually build something from scratch. Now, these are all part of ML lifecycle needs, which we'll dive into deeper later on in the presentation. But these are all things that you need to know, and you get these data points only from engineering or your science teams or data science teams. You also, most importantly, get tidbits of information from legal about whether you can actually launch a machine learning powered product in a specific market or not. Now, if you think about launching products in the European market, you're probably well aware of the GDPR regulations. A lot of the times, you cannot really collect user input, without processing it in a certain way or anonymizing the data. That severely limits the kind of solution you're building. So these are all the things I like to get out of the way before actually going in and hard baking the solution and the design. Next slide, please. All right. As always, I'm going to give you an example to drive home the point. Now, again, back in the day, I was working in ads and online shopping, and there was this specific product which was shopping recommendations based on uploading an image. Right now, if you look at this example, it's doing a pretty good job of recommending necklaces based on the reference image. Now, at the time, we were planning our roadmap, and the solution or the product that we wanted to launch was okay. Take this solution and launch it to 100% of search queries, right? Which meant that we were going to launch it to all markets. That was the product that we were thinking about. Next slide. And as always, I was doing my kind of user research, and I was doing my wedding planning, if you recall. So I decided to check how this product would actually do if I wanted to search for options for Indian weddings. So let's say I wanted to purchase a necklace such as this one. um, this is the kind of solution I was hoping or expecting. Next slide. But next slide, please. What I actually saw was this experience, um, which is not great, right? So, based on the source image of the necklace that the woman is wearing on the left, the bottom image actually gives those were the kind of recommendations I was seeing. So we could not ship this solution as is. It had to be redone, right? Now, what this explains to me is that the machine learning model, which is powering this recommendation, has never seen diverse data. It does not know how to recommend specific kinds of products because it's never seen images like this. It's never been trained on this kind of inventory. Next slide. So I partnered with the data science team to actually do this testing and in the validation and planning phase, right? And then I figured out, okay, we cannot pick up this product launch in the next 3 months. This is probably a slightly bigger product, slightly bigger scope. There are biases in the data. We need to think about additional computational power if we want to host other models or even train newer models. We need to figure out what the privacy laws are in multiple markets before we launch them. Diversity is a very big component of this. So, yeah, all of this is very important to figure out in the validation and planning phase. Next slide. So, once you figure out all your possible roadblocks or limitations, right? Between your idea of a solution and what you actually want to launch. Um, I consider that a very big success if you figured out what your limitations are, because now you know what are the things exactly blocking you from actually launching what you have in mind. So coming to this stage is great, right? Because you can get into the refinement of the solution and the design phase after this. So my main, I think, advice for folks in this stage is embrace ambiguity, ask a lot of questions. It's better to understand your limitations and failures very early on in the planning phase. Yeah, don't be afraid to get dirty with data. Data is your friend. Figure out what solutions just cannot be built or can be built. All right, next slide. Another example to drive home the point for my friends who are in the B2B scenarios, because so far I've only been explaining B2C scenarios. Back in the day when I was working in the groceries world, there was a product that we wanted to launch where we wanted to do promotions testing. So imagine your favorite candy store like Hershey's or Sour Patch, whatever it is. They have these stickers that have details like buy one get one free or buy and save 20% off, these kind of things, right? So we wanted to create an offering for these companies, which was a software as a solution offering, where we would recommend promotions based on when they wanted to run it and based on their brand goals of awareness or sales. Next slide. So we had this amazing model which would give them these solutions, and we took it to these companies, right? And they were extremely against it, right? We thought it was an amazing technical solution, but our stakeholders, our customers here, um, were folks with not very much tech background. They were afraid to incorporate AI. They had no idea around, what the legal constraints are. They said, "Oh, is it going to use user data? We don't think we can share that kind of data." So, these were the kind of fears or ambiguities that this specific cross-functional stakeholder had, which we had to solve for. Next slide. So this actually helped us because we had the crux or the tech solution ready, but we had to build around it and create a comfortable environment for this stakeholder to actually adopt onto the solution. Now, the validation and planning phase in the B2B world involves talking to the customer as well, right? So you have a brief conversation around, hey, we're thinking of solving this problem for you. Hopefully, it helps. The solution we're thinking of looks like this, or it could potentially look like this. It involves AI. We're going to be using user information. We're going to need XYZ data from you. So basically, making things very clear to the customer on what their involvement is in creation of the solution really gives them a good idea um, around their involvement and even their adoption of the solution, right? So once we spoke about all of this, we realized, okay, we need to have some sort of privacy law form. We need to have user guidelines. We need to have onboarding and feedback and training and all these things. So the scope of the solution changed slightly. But that was good because we ultimately launched the product and it was adopted and it's making a lot of money right now. So yeah, I think the B2B scenario has that additional element of talking to the customer, which in my opinion is great because you get direct feedback. Next slide. Great. So we're already done with two steps. And now we come to my favorite step, which is design and requirements. This is the phase where you have identified the problem, you have prioritized it, you have a solution in mind, you've figured out the scope of the solution because you know what can't be built, but what can be built. And now you're putting all of this into a product requirement document, which will be discussed with engineering and data science to actually build out the solution. Next slide. As always, I will be providing an example. This example we're going to be talking about is one of my favorite shopping and browsing platforms, which is Pinterest. I use Pinterest a lot to figure out outfits and other random things. So back in the day, when COVID ended, I forgot how to dress. I had forgotten how to dress for the office, so I ended up looking at office outfits. Right now, this is a great experience, but one problem: it doesn't really support all body types. Back in the day, it also didn't support people who looked differently. There was no diversity in this data that you're looking at. Next slide. And it was also a pretty long user journey at the time to figure out what I wanted to buy. Next slide. But Pinterest has come a very long way since then. It's incorporating different body types, it's incorporating skin tones, it's incorporating hair patterns, lot of diversity added into the platform to make it more inclusive. Their shopping funnel or the user funnel for shopping has shrunk quite a bit, which is amazing. Great tool that can be used for discovery and shopping. Now, in this, I specifically want to talk about this feature, which is browse by hair pattern, right? Now, this seems like a very innocent feature, but it's actually powered by a ton of ML. Next slide. So let's say you're a product manager who is writing the requirements for this ML solution. How exactly would you write it? Now, we broke down in the very first slide what an AI product is, right? It consists of inputs to a machine learning model or a set of models, and finally it gives an output. Next slide. So, our feature or product here is filter by hair type, right? So, our input is actually the user clicking on a specific kind of hair type. So, it has your UI components, it has your backend components. It also has a data pipeline which takes in the signed in users' details like their age, location, previous browsing history, all of those things. Next slide. Um, Coming to your machine learning model specifically, think about it. If you select by a specific hair type, now let's say you select curly, right? What does Pinterest have to do in the backend? It has to, first of all, identify a lot of different images that have curly as their hair type, sort through them, pick the ones that have the highest probability of being clicked on or liked by the user. So it has to extract features from all the images that it has, pick the ones that actually fit the curvy hair type bill, and then rank all of those images based on a specific objective function like maximum number of clicks, right? And then feed it back to the UI to actually display all of those different images in the right order. So a lot happening in the back end, even though it just looks like a very simple click-through product here. So you have your ML models, you have feature pipelines, you have data pipelines which feed back the features, and all of this has to be hosted on some online service because it's actually happening real time. So when you think about a solution, you need to think about all of these components, and you need to write out requirements by at the lowest granularity possible for the engineers and the data scientists. Next slide. So once you have your requirements, typically, most product managers, they kind of check out. They're like, okay, the feature is going to go into the development phase. I can, go to discovery on a different project, which you can. But I think there's a lot of value add that a PM can do even in the development and testing phase for launching an AI product. Next slide. Awesome. So what does development actually mean? Let's focus on specifically the ML models here. So in the previous case, we needed machine learning models which would identify um, that a specific image has curly hair type, right? Um, it had to score each image and say, hey, this is a 90% probability of having a curly hair type model in the image. So let's say that's the kind of model you're building. You need to actually procure some data sets, right? You need data sets with people who have curly hairs. I need to label it with yes and no and maybe and things like that. Then you actually need to train your model. And finally, you need to test and validate your model. Next slide. So in this phase, how exactly can a PM add value? It's everything that a data scientist or an ML engineer would do. PM can actually add a lot of value here. Firstly, you can think through fair AI practices. The data set that's being collected, where is that data coming from? How diverse is that data? Are we ethically collecting this? Are we anonymizing the data? The product manager should look into all of this, establish some sort of playbook. Second, in the testing phase, you can add a lot of value to actually manually look into what kind of scores the ML model is spitting out and whether it's in line with the expectations of the user experience. Lastly, you can define metrics. This is probably the biggest value add, right? You can, that one part of the metrics is just model metrics. So this is your accuracy and all of those things. But what the PM can actually do is add value around business metrics, user engagement metrics. Think about revenue, connect the feature to the business priority. And you can also establish guardrail metrics. So, what I mean by that is if this new feature is added and people are engaging with filter by hair type a lot, are they forgetting to click on products? Are we cannibalizing clicks on products? Are we taking up space which some other UI component could have taken on? All of those things need to be thought through. Next slide. All right. So, next slide, please. Awesome. So the next part of it is the testing phase. So you have your machine learning, solution ready. Uh, One of the most important things to do is to test in a controlled environment on a very small set of users how actually this solution is looking before rolling it out to the wild. And we call that as A/B testing, where A is your control, B is your treatment. You could also have multiple treatments, right? In the B2B scenario or the SaaS world, we also call this pilot programs. So the product manager can really add a lot of value here in experiment design. You can define what percentage of users are participating in the A/B test or in the pilot program. Who are the users who will take part? Should we test the solution in India, in Europe? Should we test it with our smallest clients, biggest clients, all of those things? Figure out the scope of the machine learning solution. Now, if you look at Pinterest, right, they have picked filter by hair type, right? And they have 5 different hair types. It's highly possible that there are 20, but probably some PM or somebody thought of, okay, maybe 5 is probably the right spot because our ML solution is performing well with just 5 categories. And also for the user, it makes sense for them to just think of 5 as opposed to 20. Those kind of user-based solutions, sorry, user-based scope is what you have to keep in mind. And of course, defining the success of the pilot. Now, is your pilot successful if a lot of people engage with your product? Or is it successful if overall it's resulting in more clicks into ads and revenue? So those kind of bigger picture questions, if you help to answer, I think it's very helpful. And of course, the second thing is planning for failures. Let's say your ML model breaks in the wild. What happens? Are you going to do an immediate rollback? What's your fallback criteria? If there are issues with respect to data and privacy, the legal team needs to be kept on standby to answer any questions. Communications are very important. You need to handle all of these stakeholders who are actually supporting you. And finally, once your pilot ends or your A/B test ends, you need to think about the launch decision. How is it? Is it a yes? Do we roll out 100% or not? Next slide. Okay, we have reached the last part of your PLC. You have developed a solution, tested it, and you have a launch decision of yes, and you're deciding to launch the product. Next slide. Now, when it comes to launching an AI product, there are a couple of things that you need to think through, all right? Because at the end of the day, a machine learning solution is a non-deterministic solution. It's not always going to provide the same results if the features are slightly different, right? So we kind of break it down into 3 phases. First is a soft launch, which is your phased out launch, right? Before you actually go to 100%, you do something like 5%, 25, 50. You kind of go in that in between phase. Finally, launch and monitor is when you roll out to 100% and monitor your metrics. And the phase after that is, I'll come to it in a moment. Next slide. All right. So when you do your soft launch, um, you need to think through which portion of users you want to target first. You also need to keep a very tight grip on your capacity needs. And when I say capacity, I mean to say your compute power, right? So at the end of the day, when you launch an ML solution, you are launching the capability of model inference probably millions of times in a day, depending on your traffic, of course. So you are expecting an ML model to be inferenced multiple times. Um, and for that, you need some sort of CPU or GPU support. Hopefully, you only need CPU support. You need to figure out how much that costs. You need to get the right approvals. You need to, yeah. So it's a big part of your planning. Next slide. So once you figure out everything is fine and you do your 100% rollout, the most important thing to do is look at your metrics almost every day. And when I say metrics, I not only mean model metrics, I mean user engagement metrics, infrastructure like latency, site reliability metrics, all of those things. So it's a whole package. So you have your user metrics, your engineering metrics, your data science metrics. I would also add in another set of metrics for good measure, which are guardrails, which basically means if you launch your product, is it going to cause a degradation in somebody else's product on the same page, or as part of the same product, as part of the same solution? Next slide. The last part is to think about refresh. What does refresh mean? Now, let's say that we have launched a feature which has been powered by ML. That ML solution is scoped to the input and labels that it has been trained on before launch, right? Now, let's say we are 2 years into the launch. This model has never seen any new data that is probably relevant to it for the next 2 years. So, if you build a chatbot, for example, powered by some ML model which provides solutions about the Olympics, for example, and you don't retrain it on the like if you don't retrain it every 4 years, it's the most simple example of how a model becomes stale, right? That chatbot has no idea about the most recent wins. That doesn't make any sense. So what you need to remember is that you need to retrain your model. You need to get it to see the newer data, and you need to plan for it. This has to be part of your roadmap. So with every ML model that you're launching, maintenance is an overhead. Um, you need to constantly think about laws which are changing in multiple countries and markets, and make sure that your ML model is not breaking any laws, or your solution is not breaking any laws. And you also need to make sure that your cross functional stakeholders are aware of all of this. Your legal team should always be aware of the fact that they should tell you if there are certain laws that change. Or your data science team should always have capacity to fix a problem if some ML model breaks in the wild, or gives a weird solution in the wild. So it's very flashy to be an AI product manager, but it's also a huge responsibility, because your responsibility doesn't stop after launch. It in fact continues, because your solution is constantly growing and evolving, and it's your duty to make sure that it's always on top of its game. So yeah, with that, I think we are done with all the 5 phases of the product lifecycle for an AI product, and launching it. I hope this was useful. Thank you for sticking around. I had a great time walking you folks through this.
Nimisha, thank you so much for this. It was super insightful, and I'm pretty sure our audience grabbed a lot of valuable takeaways.
Thank you.
Of
Thanks for supporting me on the moving around of the PPT. I appreciate it.
course. So right now, let's start our Q&A session because we already have questions from the audience. And the first question is from Matteo, and he asks, what's the biggest reason AI product launches fail?
Ooh, okay. That's a hard one because there are like 20 different reasons why AI products might fail. So maybe let's talk through what failure means first. Um, so there have been a lot of examples in history where very flashy and public launches have led to the product just misbehaving, right? For example, let's say Google search itself back in the day. It misclassified certain images, which caused an uproar. I'm not going to talk about it in this session, but it took images of certain things and called them something else. Now that can be called a failure, right? Um, it could easily offend somebody out in public. So the main reason for these failures, I think, is improper testing and not enough diverse testing. So I think that product managers, data scientists, and in general, people who are behind the launch of any ML feature should just incorporate diversity and ethics into their whole pipeline. The more you test, the less you'll fail in public. Let me rephrase: the more you fail in private, the less you fail in public. So, spending a lot of time procuring validation data sets, um, and actually, yeah, doing robust testing is one of the ways to prevent that. So, I think the uh, lack of enough time for testing is probably one of the big reasons why these products fail and fail publicly.
So test, 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 right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, next question is, how do I hire the right people to build AI powered features?
Oh, wow. I love this question. So I'm speaking from a product manager's point of view. So I work with, engineers, data scientists, operations, customer success, UXR, all of these people. And the one thing I value in all of them when we're trying to ship an AI product is what does this person bring to the table when we vet both the problem to be solved and the solution that is being built before we actually test it or launch in public. So, one of the questions I always ask when I'm hiring is walk me through a situation where you had a specific idea or you brought something unique to the table, which actually changed the course of something. I think authenticity can be people's superpowers. Me embracing the fact that I came from a South Asian background, did my wedding planning on something like a wing.com is what helped us get a whole lot of features into the product. Now, let's say I didn't, and I was just another vanilla, employee. It's fine, business as usual, but it's where we come from and making ourselves being heard authentically is what pushes us towards building robust products and robust solutions. And I think when it comes to launching AI products, which are so dynamic in nature, um, all of the people who are hired into these cross-functional roles need to be people who voice their opinions without hesitation, because those are the people who have strong conviction over what is right and what is wrong. And our definition of right and wrong is not defined by one rule, it's defined by people who come from diverse backgrounds. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, the next one is from Alex, and he asks, what's your take on launching quietly versus with hype?
Oh my gosh. Wow, these questions are hard.
That's
Okay.
an interesting one. We have a great audience today here with us.
All right. So launching quietly versus launching with hype. I would say you can do both, right? And in staggered ways. I would say when you're building these features, you can build in public within your company or organization. Involve as many people as possible when you're collecting data or when you're doing your offline testing. Involving a lot of people and hyping it up can be really useful. But when you're launching your solution, I would say the very first phase, when you do your A/B testing, I wouldn't cause a hype. I would do a lot of controlled environment testing first, And once we have confidence over what the scope of our solution is, we've drawn boundaries, we can confidently tell users, hey, you know what? We're launching to solve problems A, B, and C. We don't think we can solve problems X, Y, and Z, right? When you have that sort of a strong conviction, you can go all out, hype it up, um, do webinars, announce in conferences, and run ads and all of those things. But without having strong conviction, I think launching in public would be a disaster. Building in public within your company, great idea for it, done it, very useful.
Great, thank you. And Alex, have one more question. What was your first AI project?
Oh, wow. I think my very first AI project was, which got me interested in this whole journey was, this was way back in 2012 or something like that, 2013, back when data science was all the rage and we didn't have ChatGPT to answer all our questions. I think I built out the very first melanoma cancer detection algorithm. I actually lost my grandmom to cancer. So it was very important for me to kind of get into this space and figure out how to use technology to do some sort of social good. Yeah, it was a really fruitful experience because um, back in the day, we didn't have auto generated data sets. We had to actually partner with hospitals to get all of this data. You know, ChatGPT didn't design images for us. We had to do a lot of data augmentation, data labeling, all of those things. So learning from first principles and seeing this solution do something in the medical space was so enlightening. And that's when I realized you can actually solve problems with data and statistics. And that kind of got me into this whole space. So yeah, that was one of my first projects.
Yeah, that's like super interesting, a cool, lifelong story that brought you later to where you are now.
Yeah.
That's really inspiring and cool. Thank you. Thank you so much, Nimisha. Thank
Thank
you
you.
once again for your expertise, for showing your expertise today, for being with us here today. Thank you for everyone who joined our live session today. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your feedback. And if you have any follow up questions, you can reach out directly to Nimisha. Her LinkedIn link will be in the description below. And she'll be happy to connect with you directly if you have any questions left or just anything. So, and we are a Top Voices community that supports early stage startups and founders through meaningful connections, resources, and connections. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter to stay in the loop with all the freshest news. All the links will be in description. Thank you all once again, Nimisha. Thank you once again for today's session, and see you guys next time.
Thanks, folks. Have a nice day.